hello. Okay. I think my thing has gone out now. Am I back on?
Oh.
I am back on. Corey?
Hey,
Okay, yeah, okay, we've got you back.
you're all green.
Say that again?
You're all grainy.
Grainy.
Yeah. But I can see you and I can see me on stream. I think we're good.
Yeah, no, we're getting you loud and clear over here.
Okay, cool. So what I'm saying is this: if you put it at 2 or 3, you can only move that many hexes.
Yeah.
The next level of it, you can only move 1 hex. So I don't see why you would have to write that down. If we have all of these wound conditions going to the next level, increasing or decreasing in severity,
right,
why would that one require that we write it in and the others not?
Because the answer is, what's the next level from 3?
2.
But we just said that it would be 1 if we went to a level 2 wound.
Then we keep it at 2, and then it would go to 1.
And my issue there is that if you put that on a level 1 condition, I've gone from being able to move like 15 hexes down to 2. And then when I get my like worse wound, like my I'm almost dead wound, it literally just goes down to 1. It doesn't seem like a big enough dip for me. It feels weird.
I don't know. Like I don't see what. I mean, like we can write it down if you want to do it, but I don't see like the difference between 1 hex in that. Feels like going from 15 to 3 or 15 to 2 feels like a drop in the hat. I don't.
My only thing is it just feels like it feels like it gives the level 2 wound at least a little more impact. Because it's like, if I have like a level 1 wound and I can move 2 hexes, then it's like, this sucks. This is bad. And then like I get another wound and it's like, okay, you can only move 1 hex. And it's like, oh, well, that sucks, but it's actually not that different from when I had the level 1 hex. At least if you start on 3, you have a little more to lose once you get that second wound. That's my only argument in favor of it. If you think it's just simpler to do starting at 2 and going down to 1, then that's fine.
I think it's simpler, and it just doesn't introduce the precedent of us like having to individually count all of these out.
Yeah. All right, that works. We'll go ahead and we'll start with 2 then. Let's see here. Okay. And what else? Sorry, what were we doing before that?
Let's go to the next wound. Just make sure that they can increase or decrease.
That's what we're doing. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is death. So rolls
This
a
one, +1 on whatever they're rolling against you, right?
investigation approach against a death target rolls +1.
I think maybe if we just someone rolling against a death target rolls +1 die.
Okay. I mean, the idea with the obfuscation is that you're obviously being sneaky and stuff.
Sure.
I mean, we can totally do it with other approaches. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, so like thinking back on like our combat actions, we had a lot of things that were like married to those like specific die rolls. I feel like with how we're building conditions, we're like a lot of these aren't, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should stay that in that realm.
Okay. Yeah, that works. Okay, cool. So we've got death and +1 die. Very easy progression up to +2 die.
Sure.
So that is fine. Let me see here. All right, so then we have disoriented. They roll 1d4 when performing any action. Success results in them hitting the correct target. Failure targets a player creature of the archivist's choosing.
This one confuses me a little bit.
So basically the idea is if I'm disoriented, I'm in like a group melee, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know who is who or what is what. The idea is that I could potentially attack my teammates, right? In the haze of everything, I could think like, oh, that guy over there, that's a threat, and I attack them, and it turns out to be my friend.
Okay.
So the idea with this was you roll a 1d4, right? It gives you a 50% chance of success. On a 1 or a 2, you end up attacking like a desired target, whoever you mean to attack, on a 3 or a 4, then you would end up attacking the wrong person. Like probably it's GM discretion, but the way it's intended is that like you end up targeting one of your friends. I do see a clear path to making that worse, where you can just up the polyhedral die, right, to a 1d6.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about the mechanic in general, though.
I think it's a fine mechanic. My only worry is like us introduce like, because as you said before, like sticking to like just the game mechanics at their core seems to be working really well.
Yeah.
This feels like a fiddly kind of thing. But at the same time, it also sticks to the mechanics. I feel like let's keep it, but let's put a pin on wording it, make sure that the wording is clear. Like, let's go back through and make sure the wording is like... Because I think that is gonna, like, something like this, the most important thing is gonna be how we write it down. Yeah,
well, and you were confused reading it, which is enough cause for, at least a little bit of concern.
I mean, I'm a dipshit.
we're all dipshits here. Okay, cool. So then moving on to frightened targets must use whatever approach they are currently using until the frightened condition is removed. Well, that doesn't really... Oh, but it's not a wound.
Not a wound.
Yeah, so it doesn't fucking matter. Poisoned. Poisons vary by type, but a poisoned target loses a wound node every round. You up that to 2 wound nodes every round.
Yep.
So that's fine. Next one is unconscious, is what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, so unconscious.
How can you be a level 2 unconscious?
So this is maybe something we can talk about. Maybe we take unconscious off and we write into the rules something very, very easily. You can choose to do non-lethal damage. If you do non-lethal damage to somebody, 3 wounds go unconscious. Yeah. I like that a lot, actually. I think that makes a lot more sense. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this row then. Okay, and then winded is also a wound. So must roll +1 die for all rolls. And what? Target is exhausted and must roll -1 for all rolls until the...
-1. Okay, never mind. I thought it was a plus for some reason. My brain read it as a plus. Okay, cool. So yeah, upping that to -2.
Yeah.
Sick.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So these actually work as far as turning these all into like level 1, level 2 things.
It might behoove us to switch from 3 wounds to like 4 wound points total, just because like 3 feels like a natural progression, right?
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you there. Okay, so
it would also solve our issue with the broken condition too, because like if you're going down from 3 to 2 to 1, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Okay, so applying wounds, any of the conditions listed in the condition section with a wound tag can be applied to characters or NPCs who suffer wounds. The severity of these wounds increase by wound rate. I'm struggling with the word here.
Applying wounds. Any conditions listed in the conditions section with a wound tag can be applied to characters or NPCs who suffer wounds. Severities of these increase by the level of wound that they have.
Okay.
I think wounds are cumulative, so you can either, and this is again going into some funky wording, but like you can either upgrade the level of wound that you are applying to somebody with a wound condition, or give them a new wound, but it doesn't matter as long as the wound condition reaches 3, right?
Right.
Then you die.
So
death or unconscious. Yeah, baby, on the same fucking...
Yeah. Okay, so wound condition applies as written.
Oh, shit, that actually kind of opens up something fun.
What?
I think going inert, like, if we're putting unconscious and death on the same level, if, like, someone's trying to fuck with you and, like, knock you unconscious, you could go inert and use all your fucking penny coin to do something as you go unconscious, too.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're trying to rob me? Well, I got bad news for you. This money's about to be just worthless pieces of metal. Okay, so wound condition applies. How do you want to word this as we go, like...
wound condition upgrades in severity by 1.
Okay, so upgrading with severity by 1 or by relevant polyhedral die type. Does that make sense?
Man, I like... I worry that, like, when we bring in, because if we're not covering all the bases, I just think,
yeah,
I just think if we just have it, and like, that's fine for right now, but I think, like, if we can work on a way to have it where it's just, increases by severity, maybe this is a good example of we need a side, this will be a great place for a sidebar, right?
Yeah.
Like, example of play.
Yeah. Okay, so by 2 or by relevant. Okay, so I'm just going to put it here, and we will revisit the wording of it, because I also think it's kind of... Like, I know how the system works, and that still feels weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't... Yeah.
I think examples of play are going to show this a lot more.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to throw a note here.
Yeah.
Include... God. Okay. So include example of play.
We should probably also include in applying wounds... I keep trying to click on the Twitch screen to type into this, because I'm, again, a fucking monkey. Like, I'm an idiot. Okay, we should include that when you take a wound, you can either, the Archivist can either increase the severity of an existing wound, or introduce a new wound at level 1. Either way, wounds are cumulative.
Okay, so to be clear then, so you can actually have 3 level 1 wounds and then die.
Yeah.
Okay, so my interpretation of it was, if you have a level 2 wound, it is always a level 2 wound. Like, even if it's a brand new introduction, it automatically scales just because your performance in the fight or whatever is decreasing. Do you want to stick? Do you want to stick to level 1 each time, or? Because I like the idea of the Archivist having the choice of introducing a new level 3 wound or just increasing the severity of your existing one.
I think let's go that, because otherwise it's going to be brutal, right? Like, I have a level 1 bleeding, a level 2 poisoned, and a level 3. I don't know. Is that too brutal?
I think it kind of fits the world we have, honestly. To me, that tracks. I think that's just it's a flag that we have to plant in the ground one way or another. That's how I would plant mine.
Let's do. Because I think it's easier to get more punishing than less punishing, right? Okay. So, because both work, right? Both are like viable options, and they're both a pretty easy shift.
Yeah, for sure.
And if we do a playtest and, like, things are too easy, it's still fun. If we do a playtest where things are too fucking brutal, it ceases to be fun, right?
Yeah. Okay, so introducing new wound at level 1 or increasing the severity of the existing wound, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. And
I jam my thumbs in your ears again.
And you die.
This time I gave this man a wet willy until he died.
Hey, did you ever... Hey, were you guys there when I bullied that kid so hard he fucking died?
fucking walking down the hallway on a guard. He looks down and sees his friend's saliva pouring from their ears, and you're just approaching like that. My friend, you just came into the wrong prison cell.
Just like all black silhouette with like flaming white eyes and just a dripping finger.
Fuck, we're dumb. This is a stupid game.
I'm just taking notes for whenever I pick up Ruma again, because I'm 1,000% gonna do this.
Fuck, if you do, just stop right now. If you do Ruma again, I can't play as Mira, probably.
Almost definitely not. Here's the thing. The only way you could play as Mira again is if she lost her powers again, and I don't think I could do that to Mira. That would just be wrong.
But if I don't get to play her, you're going to use her as a villain.
I would never do that to you.
And I could never hurt her.
Like you're playing like a total like Boy Scout, but you're just like, guys, I'm sorry. There's just something in me that like I can't hurt her. I can't do it.
She's so perfect. Oh fuck.
Okay.
Good Ruma. Let's take a bio break.
Yeah. This makes
I gotta do a piss.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be back in a little bit. Actually, what are we doing when we get back?
Let's do some more mechanic stuff and do the last hour as I just want to get some more mechanic stuff nailed down.
Yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, we'll be back in like 5 minutes. Take a break, and yeah, we'll see you in a bit. Bye. And with that,
given by taken which are given by taking any form of damage. Given by...
I would like to apologize for all of our listeners who have been listening to muted us for the last, 3 minutes. I did not realize... I didn't realize that our mics hadn't been turned back on. Sorry about that, y'all. That one was completely on me.
We're done. I mean, I did it to a whole stream and a half to myself once.
Did you really?
Remember when we did Adam in the quiet year? And
and it was totally muted the whole time. Fuck.
Just on me, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember that. Shit.
And then permanent effects. Let's just put a note here. And maybe we'll do it in a minute, but but for right now, let's keep moving.
Yeah, no, that works. I'm also just gonna really quick transform this from a heading into a just regular text.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have. Okay, what do we have covered? Movement. Do we have movement written in here? The new way we're doing that? Okay, yeah. Movement starts with every Vault Peddler adding 5 hexes. With every member of your faction adding 5 hexes to a pool. Every member of your active faction. Would that be?
Yeah, that makes more sense. That's more appropriate. Because you're not always going to be just a team of Vault Peddlers.
Yep.
You may have people with you.
Adding 5 hexes to a pool, which can be divided among players during the round. Additional knowledge of the era, as per the GM's discretion, and catch sheet, which I'm going to put here, just so we could start talking about. Just make sure we're still talking about the GM tools.
Yeah.
Adds the single hex per member of the faction. Perfect. Okay. Cool. We covered it, and then we have our actual conditions, which we have a big, full list of conditions now. Although when I hit it, it doesn't bring me to wound system. Okay. Okay. Cool. So let's see here. Resolution. Do you want to work on the resolution of these right now, or is there anything else we need to work on with combat?
I think that's the most pressing, honestly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so let's work on resolution, I think.
I'm gonna go open up a new tab so I can look at our.
Yeah, so I'm interested to get your notes on this because I feel like I've gotten a little bit of chops for like understanding tabletop systems. I don't understand how you would resolve a terrain condition. Does that even have a resolution?
So, like, I suppose you could have, and this is where we get into that again, the weird territory of having terrain underneath the rest of the conditions.
Yeah.
Which is something we might want to think about moving out. But there are ways to resolve arduous terrain, right? Like, it just depends on what the arduous terrain is. If I have items that like solve arduous terrain, if I have climbing gear that can solve arduous terrain, but again,
right.
It makes me think we should pull terrain into its own section.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing. If we do pull these conditions out, then really we just have a list of wounds, right?
Yeah, which is also fine. Like,
yeah, which is fine. I mean, it's the opposite of what you wanted to do at the beginning of this stream.
I mean, it's not just wounds, right? Like we have conditions in here that are not wounds, that are just like
there's covered and rallied and
frightened, there's prepared, surprise. I think there's a good amount of them that aren't wounds.
Yeah. I mean, do we separate those as well?
I mean, I don't think we have to. Terrain to me feels like more GM facing stuff, I guess. Like when we're talking about taking, I mean, that's wounds only.
Yeah.
Let's just leave them for right now, and we can also we can do this.
Yeah. See, that was gonna be my suggestion. Is just NA. Doesn't really apply.
NA or fiat, like NA and like that. Something we should include. Conditions can be solved in unexpected ways by players performing actions. In those cases, don't punish your players for thinking creatively and trying to solve something, right?
Okay. GMs. Their suggestions. We highly recommend rewarding creative solutions as an archivist. Okay, cool.
And I'm just gonna open up our skills, so I got a list of our skills right next to us.
Yeah.
Skills under, or skills in a weird spot. Skills in use.
Yeah, it's under the section titled Skills and Uses.
Yeah. Okay. Bleeding.
Keep bleeding. Keep bleeding, love.
You need a repair roll.
Repair roll? Gotta repair. Can you repair a person? I'm a mechanic.
Repair him. All right, I'm gonna need a torch. So conditions. Are conditions resolving by time? And like they just naturally resolve, or do they take character action to resolve?
So it seems like some of them would. It depends on the condition, right? I don't see bleeding resolving on its own. Not at least not bleeding that's bad enough to count for like one of our wounds.
So maybe okay. Maybe we have to figure out a time frame for that, because I feel like wounds we can solve easily, right? Like we just move resolution for wounds into the item table, and we create items that like, hey, this can solve bleeding. Hey, this can solve yada yada, you know? Like, but then we get into things like surprised. How long does the surprise condition last?
Sure. I mean, see, to me, that's also like surprised is just like, that's one round. You surprise me, and then I'm back up. It gives you like a round of this stuff.
So let's do this. Let's do duration, and then we can do NA item, or we'll say item like in parentheses, because items again could be spells, could be like use of petty coin, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So we'll do NA item or a
Wait, what was the third one? You're cutting in and out.
Sorry, an amount of rounds.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so number of rounds, duration, or action.
Yeah, so it'll just be either an item, which we can break down items as petty coin, spells, yada yada. We'll more robustly do that. I think that's going to be a whole session, is making items and shit.
Okay.
So let's just do bleeding can be item.
Makes
right?
sense. Yep.
How many rounds does blinded last?
Well, I mean, again, that also varies. So item would definitely apply. I don't know. Like, are you being blinded by a spell? Did somebody rub dirt in your eye? Like,
so, NA too, because you could just lose an eyeball.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna have critical failures, maybe that is the natural like resolution for permanent effects, right? Like,
sure.
You lose, but maybe that's not for us to talk about here. We'll talk about criticals in a different section.
Yeah.
So let's do blinded. Let's do one round, right? One round seems like you're maybe two rounds.
I would err on 2 or 3.
Okay, let's do 2. We can also make items that like reduce the severity, and this is like also where we can get into provinces having effects, right? Like how you use petty coin. Like you can use petty coin to reduce the kindness now. Like that's one thing that you can do as so good. Okay, cool. So we'll do item 2. Actually, we'll do 2 and then item. It's gonna look better. broken item. I don't think you can
Only
solve
item.
that in rounds.
We're
Yeah.
talking, when you say broken, you mean like broken bone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not going to be a number of rounds.
Covered is NA because it's also by fiat, right? Like you move out of cover, you're no longer in the covered condition.
Okay, then def.
Item and 2. Let's keep it with blind, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Disoriented, I think, only counts for what, 1?
Sure. Well,
maybe 2.
I mean,
Or well, actually, I guess you could get fucked
I
up.
think anything with wound, right? I don't think here's the thing, Taylor, actually looking at it, anything with wound, we can't have a duration of rounds, right?
Oh,
Because
God, yeah.
You have the wound.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and the same thing would just be like duration in general.
Yeah.
Shit, yeah. Okay.
So
So it's got to be an item or an action.
or hear me out. We can keep the duration, but any condition applied with the wound tag can only be resolved by item, by item. Because you have that wound now. But if I'm disoriented just by like a flashbang, I don't have that wound. So I think this is how we do it. Any condition applied with the wound tag can only be resolved by item.
Okay. I'm going to put that up in the wound system thing here. Hang on 1 second.
Alright, cool.
So any condition applied with the wound tag can only be resolved using the item solution, which can refer to player actions, petty coin usage, or physical items in your inventory.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool.
Now we have that taken care of. So we can have blinded back at 2. We can have death back at 2. Disoriented. What do you think? 1.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and we'll stick with 1.
Okay.
Especially given the nature of the mechanics on that, I think it's smart to limit that to just a single one for the time being.
What about fright? Do you think has a round duration, or
if it does, I think by definition it needs to be long, because the whole point is that you're using you're using the same approach over and over again. So it doesn't make sense to do it for like 2 or 3, because not 1 or 2 anyways. 3 would probably be like my suggestion for how many rounds that would last.
Okay, let's do 3 then. And worst case scenario, we will remove it.
Yeah.
And then we can have elevated tags on items, right? Like this is frightened +2, so like this is extra frightening.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Held. I think held can only be resolved. Item could be skills too, right? Like.
Yeah. If we're saying that it can be, I'll put it on here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, player actions would connote skills. Okay, cool.
Item, I don't think held has like a...
By definition, I don't think it can have a round limit.
Yeah.
It's like, the vines have me. It's okay, I'll be fine in like 3 minutes.
And I don't think NA even applies to it actually, too, because you can always move out of getting held by someone.
Always.
Not that you want to. In the world being what it is, Taylor, why the fuck would you want that?
Can anybody right now look me in the eye and tell me they don't want to just be wrapped up in some nice cozy vines? Like, obviously, that's what everybody wants right now.
Fine. Man, I have a lot of... I use vines and tendrils a lot.
It's like classic D&D imagery, right? Like, yeah, makes sense. We all grew up watching Batman the Animated Series, thinking about how cool not Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Poison. Poison to last. I think that's long too, right?
Definitely long. Yeah. I think 5 rounds.
Let's do 3 because we're already. I think 3 is like 5 is probably the complete total of like the longest we're gonna have a combat run, right?
Yeah.
Like in that we are limiting things, right?
I mean, to push back on that, how many poisons have you seen that go away after like 20 minutes?
Then in that case, then it's just item.
I think it's item. I think it has to be item. Yeah.
Fair. 1 round.
Yeah, 1 round.
I'm scared.
NA?
Yeah, NA.
Like, I guess if it was like a dark area or something like that, and you had like, I don't know, some kind of item to light that area up, I guess that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, item and NA both account there then.
Yeah.
Rallied, I think, is 1, just because like it's pretty strong, right? Like,
yeah, I agree. Surprised is also 1.
Well, on their current approach until the condition is removed. Actually, let's do this one as variable.
Okay.
For rallied.
But based on what?
Well, just because how we have it written here, current approach until the condition is removed. I don't know. It just seems like it could, like, you could be rallied further, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, if it's a powerful move, I'm just now realizing I don't know how you would inflict that condition on like teammates. Would this just be like a parlay roll?
So it would probably be related to items, like in the same way that Frightened could have like the tag. You could probably rally with parlay, like, hey, I want to give a speech, and like
maybe that's like a pharaoh. Maybe that's like a pharaoh feat or something.
Yeah, I think you could have it. You could have it in 3 different ways, right?
Okay,
it could be just me doing something, me using petty coin to do it extra good, or and I think having it variable here works, right?
But the idea being that however you inflict the condition, it's the number of rounds would be on like the item or the feat or whatever.
Sure. And like I think like base, like if I'm just giving a speech, I'm not rocked into anything. Yeah, you rally somebody for 1 round.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But if you give somebody like steroids, then it's like a full 3 rounds.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's a weird interpretation of rallying.
Ugh. I don't know.
We should do boot and rally.
Boot and rally.
Winded is a wound, so I think. Well, it's also individual. I think it's 1 and.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Cool.
Cool.
Easy. Lemons. Easy. We don't have anyone watching us right now, so. I'm joking. We had everyone watching us, Taylor.
Oh, thank God. I was so worried, Corey. I was so disappointed.
So yeah. Okay. Let's before we move on, let's talk about what we need to do next time, because I think we have combat basically done, right? Unless like we're talking about permanent conditions.
Yeah, I mean, we probably do need to talk about permanent conditions. I'm kind of a fan of just putting that as like a byline in like finding a way to do that similar to how we've kind of characterized wounds in like the section under wound system. Like finding a way to just be like, this is how like to turn a wound into a permanent condition. rather
Okay,
than
then-
listing a bunch of permanent conditions.
Then let's do that. Like you can do that by decrease. You can turn a wound into a permanent condition by either decreasing a skill or taking a polyhedral die and decreasing its value. Right,
Okay.
graduating it to the next round.
Okay.
And then that's it, right?
And we're reducing by 1 or just raising to the next polyhedral die type, or is it like going
Yeah.
all the way to 1?
Oh no! Reducing by 1 or increasing to the next polyhedral die type,
Okay.
or decreasing to the next polyhedral die type.
Okay.
And then we should probably write something about how the game is a lot about ebb and flow with items too. So you should be providing your players ample opportunity to improve themselves with auxiliary sources like mechanical appendages, like spells, like things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And now just to how do we determine when do you apply a permanent? Is it GM fiat? Is it?
It just says, should wounds not be resolved in sufficient time. So the interesting thing here, right, is that all of our wounds are, by definition, only solvable via item.
Right.
So I don't know. We probably need to explain what that is. It would seem like... Huh. I almost want to do it by contract or something.
By the adventure, right? Like if you haven't resolved this by the, although that gives players an ample opportunity to be like, well, before we, okay, so that means we're gonna have to push hard on contracts having time limits. Yeah.
Oh yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we knew that we were going to need to revisit contracts regardless. So,
yeah.
I mean, even if we don't do it that way, we're still going to need to revisit that. What if... I'm trying to think of something like, as far as the changing mechanics of the character themselves. Like using an internally reinforcing mechanic to try and make this happen.
Sure. I mean, we could do it on like wound states, like right. If you have wound 3, then it is a shorter amount of time than.
That makes sense, right? Like
sure.
a wound 1 is like, I don't know, within a couple of days. Wound 2 is like 1 day. Wound 3 is like within a couple hours.
I mean, let's get more specific then. Specificity is going to be key. I don't hate the idea of tying it by contract, but I feel like that is too abstract.
Yeah, very much.
Don't resolve a wound 3 within. It's really a question of how long things take, right? Like this is a bigger conversation of like the scale of time in our game.
Yeah, and that's something we've bumped into with the playtest as well. I mean,
Yeah.
in that case, it was talking about overland travel, but I mean, this is the same. This is another head of the Hydra kind of rearing its head.
Oh, how about the GM calls for a roll every hour until until it's resolved.
Okay.
Or every day. No, every day. Until the wound condition is resolved, the GM calls for a roll. This can be GM fiat thing. What kind of roll this would be. And for every day that you don't resolve this wound, you can take on permanent damage. It's pretty brutal, but it's also forgiving, right?
So to make sure I understand what you're saying correctly, so every day the GM would ask you to make some kind of a roll. I imagine it's like a hardiness roll or something to that effect. And if you fail that roll, then you take on a permanent debility. And then I would be asked again at the end of the next day to make another roll. And if I fail that roll, I take on another permanent debility?
Yeah, until you resolve the wound. So
until
like,
it's
if you
resolved.
guys,
Whew.
yeah. So
Damn.
it's brutal, but it also gives you like a day is a lot of time to try to solve this, right? Like,
yeah, it would definitely put the kind of impetus that we want, I think, on resolving those wounds for sure.
Yeah.
It would also put a big impetus, I think, that we didn't have in the playtest on like making sure you go into a contract prepared. Like if something solves blindness or whatever, I'm going to make sure I have like 50 of those fucking things with me when we go into these caves. Huh. All right. Yeah, let's give it a shot. It's a playtest. We'll see what happens. Okay, so hang on 1 second here. So not be resolved. So resolved within a day. The archivist asks the wounded player to make an approach plus hardiness roll. Am I right in that assumption?
I think approach plus skill and leave it to right now. Let's keep it approach plus skill, and leave it open. But yeah, I mean, just so we're not prioritizing hardiness over other things, right?
That makes sense. Yeah. So determined by the archivist to resist the effects of the wound. If they fail, they take on a permanent disability. Okay, and that which either decreases skill by 1 or increases polyhedral die type.
Let's say debility instead of disability.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Okay, cool.
Alright, cool. I think at that point then combat is essentially solved. Like we don't have items, but we have like everything else, right? We know how situational things work, we know how conditions work, we know how initiative works, we know how movement works, we know how base resolution of damage works, we know how injury and wounds work. I think we have combat done.
Yeah, I actually think you're right. Okay. The only thing I'm going to do here, this whole section on resolving wounds, I think needs to be moved further down. Okay, so that's going to go right there. Let's see here. Condition applied with wound tag. Okay, cool. Yeah, that works much better for me.
We should high five, man.
5. Yeah.
Look at us. We actually, I mean, like, we resolved all of it, too. Like, we didn't just put, like, oh, let's put a pin in this, let's put a pin in this, like...
Yeah, we didn't just say GM fiat like a million times over and then just expect it to work out.
Well, and we didn't say, like, we'll make a list for that later. Like, no, we solved the list.
We made the list.
Yeah.
We do need to make another list now with, like, items and stuff.
Sure. But, I mean, that's the natural recourse, because items aren't necessarily just combat-related.
Yeah.
They can have all kinds of uses.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, yeah, fuck. Combat is basically done, which is a big old chunk of this game. Okay, cool. Let's talk... What is next? I mean, are we talking lore at this point?
Yeah, let's talk lore. Do you want to talk about, like, we can probably talk about what we're going to talk about next off stream.
Yeah.
No one wants to see it. No one wants to.
No one cares about your coming up next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's. Man, I don't know. Do you want to? What are some things do you want to expand on some things? Do you want to what do you want to do?
Well, so the other piece of homework that you gave me over the last couple of weeks, we did our setting primer last week. This week, we're starting on our specie primer. Now, granted, I have not finished our section on the Ember fights. I was actually typing it up this afternoon in the hopes that I would have it done before stream, but maybe this gives us a good opportunity to kind of talk about what needs to be included in these sections. So if you go over to the lore dump document, I've got it there for you.
Correct.
Yeah, you know.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's just talk about Ember fights a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, we've already learned a lot about them. I mean, just from like the playtest and just from kind of Nick's interpretation of Ember fights as well from the playtest itself. A lot of what I have written here is really just kind of, this is like the basic, this is what Ember fights actually are. These two sections are like a brief history of like the earliest Ember fights, talking about like the 5-year war outside of Orad, burning of the forests, kind of these like tales of like barbarian things that are like abducting children, which, you know, may or may not have been true. But I haven't gotten into overgrowth yet, which I know is like a big thing. I also haven't gotten into like the actual clan structure for Ember fights, which is like another really big thing. So really I've just touched on like the biology of it and like the history of them. But as far as hitting the culture, really haven't touched on that. Hell yeah. We remember the time of the nothing, before thought, before movement, before the other species of Eba bothered us with their petty squabbles. Should we return to there, then we aim to take you with us. Terrifying. Cool, dog. Thanks.
No problem. Well, and this is like something that might be fun to do is like what species, like the general thought of species, or maybe like the thought of culture. Maybe that might be a fun way to put it. Like the thought of the main cities on like what they think of the species. I don't want to get into. I don't want our game to be inherently racist.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's kind of one of the things that I have honestly been struggling with, because like the early history of the Ember fights, like, I don't know, I ran into a lot of the same issues writing about this that I ran into back when I was like a historian and I was trying to research like Native Americans, because it's like, oh yeah, like there was this like war or whatever, because like these tree people were like abducting children or whatever. And then I realized like, oh, that's probably not what actually happened. Like, that's probably just what the people in Orad like told their kids, you know, as like a thing. And then it became like a whole cultural hatred or whatever.
And that's the thing. Like, if it was what's happening, it's not what was happening with all of Ember fights. Right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's not indicative. It's indicative of a group. It's not indicative of And maybe that is like where we can talk about like the different cultural hegemonies and differences. Because what we do have here in all of the like species are essentially, we don't have subspecies like a lot of games have. We have cultures, right?
Yeah.
Like, all of them are different cultures. So like we can talk about cultural norms in each of the Ember fights, and that might remove some of that distasteful shit.
Yeah. Okay. We'll tell you what then. I'm gonna remove this little bit here. Let's see here. Okay.
Probably cool. Should we return to then? No, it has to be there. Say then right afterward.
Maybe just should we return?
Return. Ooh.
Let's see here. Which ended in a tenuous treaty between the warring clans when it was discovered that fights tough outer bark lended itself to dealing the metal serpents that had plagued the city's waterways.
I was trying to put something about overgrowth into this quote, like, and now that beats forever in our heads. It's encroaching kind of like encroaching madness. I do like that they're fucking always going like, Ember fights are just constantly
on the edge.
Well, you're going to go crazy, right? Like, you're going like, your life doesn't end at you losing life. It ends at you, like, be losing self.
Yeah.
It's fucking scary.
It's very scary. It's terrifying. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. So, Peddlers, petty squabbles. Maybe should we return before overgrowth takes us?
It was not. It was being thrumming madness. Which also adds a whole other aspect of it.
Yeah.
Just trees, and the idea of being a tree is very peaceful, but the Ember fights claim otherwise. It was a thrumming madness as a stationary object. And going overgrown is just returning to that state.
Yeah, every time we get into the lore behind the fucking Ember fights, it's always like... It's like partially depressing and partially terrifying. Like...
Yeah.
I don't know. It's always a weird thing. Okay, so... I went ahead and I chummed down the history bits to this. Just like one paragraph. I feel like I can probably cut that down even further, but trying to just put some level of context in for like players who are new. Down here, I'm getting into like actual cultural stuff. But it's hard to try and like introduce a whole culture in like a paragraph.
Let's you and I could probably, because we have done this already. Let's condense this off. Talk about something like we haven't talked about then.
Okay, what do you want to do?
I want to talk about something that we've brought up but haven't touched on.
Okay.
I would like to talk about Halls of the Awoken.
Ooh, all right.
And I would like to talk about the conceivable person in charge of the Halls of the Awoken. I want to talk about a character that we haven't talked about much since the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. So first things first, what is the Hall of the Awoken?
So the Halls of the Awoken are they are stasis chambers beneath the crust of Eva.
Okay. Why do these chambers exist?
These chambers exist as remnants of old technology, of the glittering of high Gothic technology in the glittering courts, remnants of vanity, but also they exist as a working project. And what's his name? I forget his name.
Are you talking about Augustus?
Yeah, Augustus.
Yeah.
I think, like, the rumors are that Augustus, like, leaves servitors in charge. Like, in my head, the Halls of the Awoken are these, like, chambers that, like, float like tectonic plates underneath the surface of, or maybe more freeform than that, because this is our planet and it can be a hollow Earth. Oh my god, we have a hollow Earth.
Oh, fuck. Oh, no.
But, like, there are these big, like, stasis chambers that rotate through the crust of the, under the crust of the planet. Sort of like, I mean, like, you could call them a vault, for sure.
Yeah.
But they are actively watched after by Augustus, though not often in person. Or the rumors are that Augustus watches them. And nobody knows quite where they are, right? Because they move. So, like, you can get recruited as a servitor for Augustus. But, like, every once in a while, batches of people will get awoken and brought to life, or batches of people will get added to the collection.
Okay.
To be awoken at a different time.
So they are either put to sleep or awoken, depending on... I'm gonna call Augustus's title the Proprietor.
Ooh, love
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Depending on the proprietor's need. Why is he awaking / putting these people to sleep?
So I think, like again, this is probably something we should stay a little vague on, but I think, like,
Sure.
the general consensus is that, like, Augustus is awakening people and putting them to bring about fonts of knowledge that are now lost and could be helpful to the world, or to put away specialized knowledge for a time when they might be needed. And knowledge could be more understanding, right? Like, it's not necessarily how this machine works. It could be, like, a quality that Augustus, the proprietor... Ooh, I just love the idea of calling him the proprietor. That's so spicy.
I also want to put something out there. So, done to revive these fonts of knowledge that could help the world. Also done to seal away fonts of knowledge that could destroy it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think, like, Augustus is more gray than that, right? Like, I don't know if he's,
I don't think he's a hero. Yeah. I mean, let's be clear. Like, I don't think anybody's going into these chambers willingly, right?
No, 100%.
Like, maybe that you might be cool with it if you knew, but he doesn't let you know, right? Like,
yeah, like dude is a human trafficker. He's not great.
he's a human trafficker, a temporal human trafficker. Okay, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
What is the relationship between the mainframes and the Halls of the Awoken? Because they both exist underground.
Okay, I like that. Questions.
Maybe it is by culture, or maybe they like can't see them, or they can't like.
I don't think that tracks. We've already really heavily hinted that the tunnelers are remnants of old world tech, much the same as the Hall of the Awoken is, and definitely much the same as Augustus is. Augustus is pre-collapse. He's actually maybe one of the only people who remembers the world pre-collapse. So there's definitely got to be a relationship there. What it is, I'm not totally sure. It's definitely something where I think that the mainframes are certainly aware of what this thing is. I think that they might even be able to confirm, like, yeah, this guy is actually in charge. I'm trying to think about all of the mainframes that we've talked about have some kind of a goal. Like, oversight is all about like administration and all this stuff. I just heard your partner call Benjamin. Benny Benjamin. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, that's what we call Benny when we're not calling her a piece of shit.
Benjamin K. Dog.
Benny Hill, get up here.
Maybe it's
They have goals, right? Like, all of them have goals and things that they're working towards. And Augustus similarly has goals. What if the Hall of the Awoken is masquerading as a mainframe?
So this is what I was gonna say. Like, either they haven't been able to like they can't see him or each other, or like they haven't been able to broach it, and the mainframes assume that it is another mainframe of some kind, but not in the same like lineage that they are. And maybe they're not wrong, right? Like maybe he is a kind of mainframe, but he has evolved in a very different way. And I think like they haven't been able to breach any of the halls. And occasionally, I think the halls maybe do helpful things for them, whether intentionally, unintentionally, or seemingly as gifts, to like maintain some sort of status quo. People assume to maintain some sort of status quo.
Yeah.
But it like creates this like very tenuous balance where like the mainframe, like, I don't know what that is. It has to be one of us. But fucking with it has never worked, and it has resulted in the initial calamity that broke the mainframes.
Mm-hmm.
That splintered them. Maybe that was from interacting with the Halls of the Awoken.
Well, wait, wasn't the thing that splintered the mainframes, wasn't that actually due to Quick Reef? I'm trying to make sure we're not stepping on our own toes here.
I don't think we've talked about it, have we? I think we've talked about how it was pre Quick Reef, right? Like, we talked about that specifically. You said you wrote that it had been going on for 100 years already, the Tunnelers' War.
It had been going on for 100 years, and that was directly at 100 AC after Calamity.
Mm-hmm. Which is, Calamity wasn't the first contact with Quick Reef, was it?
No, that was how I was arranging it. Like,
it was first contact with Quick Reef.
Well, Calamity. So Year Zero is the Cataclysm. It's the moment of like all of this stuff being wiped out and like all of these people turning into refugees. And then the way I had it written was 100 years after that, when like the mainframes had been disconnected for 100 years. Then they started like sending scouts out to try and figure out what was going on. It was like a protocol that was like built into them. That's how I currently have it written. If we want to change that, we can.
Well, I don't even necessarily think we have to, because like we're talking about Cataclysm, and I don't think like the moment that Augustus and Elffinch saw the Quick Reef beneath the ocean and like reached out and touched it, was that the moment of calamity? Did that like start calamity, or was that like?
I want to say that is what started the calamity, right? They were at the epicenter of it.
It exploded when they touched it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's the case, like, maybe it was Augustus's somehow reaction with Quick Reef is like what? I mean, it changed him for sure. And we're saying at the moment of Cataclysm, the Tunnelers had already been warring?
Yeah. At the moment of Cataclysm... Well, okay, so wait. So I actually need to clarify on this. The mainframes aren't warring, are they?
Okay. I don't know. Let's look at your timeline again real quick.
Yeah. I'm also going to pull up the section on Tunnelers.
Timeline, first 100 years. Tunnelers emerged following 100 years of disconnection. Okay, so at year 0 was the Cataclysm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so it doesn't actually necessarily negate that, right? Like, if immediately following the Cataclysm, Augustus had, like, set into effect something beneath, like, it was his insurance policy.
Holy shit. Do you know why no one's found the fucking Halls of the Awoken?
Why?
Because it's the remnants of Altfinch's sub. It got consumed by Quick Reef when they touched it. And that was what set off the Cataclysm. And it makes sense that he's still down there, like, battling Quick Reef. But it doesn't explain how people are going in and out of the Halls of the Awoken. Shit.
No, but I think we can, like, let's think laterally there. Like, I think that, like, this was his insurance policy for losing Altfinch, right? Like, Altfinch was too great a mind to lose. He was incredibly powerful, but what he could do was distill the because Augustus is now a biological creature, he was a technological creature. He's emotionally resonant with Altfinch because of the biology, but he's also like very logical. And so what he could do was distill the qualities that he found important in Altfinch. And like maybe this was a system he had in place before. And when Altfinch died, it was like a dead man's switch to set into motion the Halls of the Awoken. And like it was like a dead drop of these constructs underneath the planet that like started moving because now it is dangerous that they are stationary. He had been preparing them before. Now they need to move because movement is safety in whatever that dead man's switch was. So Altfinch still exists in the qualities of all these people that he's preserving underneath the ground.
Interesting. Okay, so the information that Augustus is trying to preserve is basically the knowledge of this old dead genius. So the question then is, why have so many people? Why wouldn't you just put it in like one or two? I mean, I imagine the Halls of the Awoken, like it's big enough that we have it as a background in our game. Why have that many people for a project like that?
Because I don't think I think like maybe for Augustus, like you couldn't contain Altfinch in one or two people.
Yeah.
And so he is instead picking the qualities that he saw best in Altfinch out of these people and putting them to be preserved or awoken.
Let me build off that. Maybe the answer is shouldn't. Maybe the idea is that one person shouldn't have all that information. And so he's put little bits and pieces of this information so that it can be called back upon should he need them to. Okay, so I like the idea of the dead man switch. I think it's an interesting idea. Does he have some kind of a homing system on like people who are awoken then? Like, I mean, he sends them out into the world. He could just call them back?
I don't think, because I don't think it's like information how we think of information, right? Like, it is like a system he's devised to think of the best qualities and thought processes and like different parts of Alt Finch, the different things that made this man.
Yeah.
And he knows already that having them in one person was a bad idea because that guy fucking died.
Well, and he also triggered the end of the world. Right? I mean, like...
So, it's... so I think that there is, like... There's the Hall of Record. Oh, there's different halls. There's the Hall of Records, the Hall of... And they all have different functions for the Halls of the Awoken. Like, the Hall of Records tells you who... Oh man, it's like a fucking Dune with their fucking, like, the Benny Gesserit breeding program, right? Like, he knows.
I'll take your word for it.
Right, you just read the first 200 pages.
Corey, I didn't even read that, dog. I listened to an audiobook that was a very bad retelling of it, and yeah. I would love to be able to tell you I read 200 pages of that. I did not.
I mean, here's what we know. We know that on that he does categorize people. The proprietor categorizes, freezes, and unfreezes people through different layers of time based on his own internal systems. We know that there are multiple halls of the Awoken, and we know that he moves about them in different places. Okay. I think we know that... I think we can say pretty certainly that him installing this program or starting this program on that dead man switch is what led to the disruption of... the disconnection of the tunnel.
Okay. 1 second here. So we need to distill a lot of that and put that into a typed form. All right. So present at the time of the cataclysm during which Alt Finch's sub contacted the Quick Reef and set it off on its path to destroy the world. Finch himself was consumed in the contact, which triggered a kind of dead man's switch in Augustus that provided him with one directive: preserve and propagate
the qualities.
I'm going to say the wisdom.
The qualities. Yeah, the qualities, the wisdom, whatever, of the man who made it.
Okay. All right, so specifically going back to the mainframes. So he's there when all this happens. Jesus Christ. I've got a little velociraptor in my kitchen.
Cool.
Let's see here. Sorry. I completely lost my train of thought. So what's the relationship between the mainframes?
So I think the mainframes were, like, they were connected and communicating with one, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, like, the emergence of, like, the powering on of these halls just created this massive, like, electromagnetic pulse that just rended their communication systems, like, not even communication systems, because they were one mainframe, right? They were like...
Yeah, it split it.
Yeah, it split it, like, it
Okay. So rented several mainframes. Or no. The single mainframe of the tunnelers into several pieces, which became... So, I don't know how I feel about that, actually. I don't know if... Because the whole idea behind, like, the tunnelers emerge is that this was, like, a protocol that was left in them, that if they were not contacted, or if they didn't contact the other mainframes within 100 years, then they would send out scouts to find out what was going on.
Sure. I mean, here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
Like, we're thinking of like AI machine intelligence, right? It is collective intelligence. It is machine learning. Like, they probably, it probably, because you got to think of it as an individual, right? It had probably conceived of a point where it could be fractured, and so had plans in place.
Yeah, I think I like that. So mainframe of the tunnelers in several pieces later became later mainframes of the modern world. EBA. The halls of the Awoken still prevent the mainframes from contacting each other directly.
I don't even know if I don't think they're actively preventing it, right? Like, it's just like it shattered them with that one moment.
Yeah, but the electromagnetic pulse is still there, correct?
Sure. So you're saying that it is the propagation of the halls of the Awoken that is maintaining the ability for them not to be able to, like, even build some way to reconnect, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it's keeping those mainframes disparate, because that is actually a central part of our tunneler lore, that, like, when you're still connected to the mainframe, your world is very small. It's literally just the area around this mainframe that, like, exists. So I think that it has to be the case that these mainframes can't speak with each other. And I think it also makes sense that if the halls of the Awoken emitted this electromagnetic pulse, it would also make sense that that pulse is still going. And that's why the mainframes can't speak with each other.
I don't even know, like, actually, did we talk about them actually having some sort of communal communication, like, every once in a while?
I do vaguely remember some kind of, it's like once in a century thing.
So here's the thing, I don't hate the idea of keeping the electromagnetic pulses being like these like waves of electromagnetism that race through the center of the planet occasionally.
Yeah.
But I will say this much too: the mainframe was once whole, but then it splintered, and when it splintered, it became 5 different distinct personalities. Who's to say all 5 of those even want to be back together, right? Like, because because going back together means you lose your individuality. You're no longer that creature. Some of them probably do, some of them probably actively do not. So I think, like, the mainframes, what the mainframes know, there is, like, a level of distinction between, like, the servitor tunnelers and the mainframe itself. This is some heady territory.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, because we're talking about, like, Ascendant, for example, wants to be a god. So, like, makes total sense that they are not really interested in getting back together with the others, right? Because their goals do not align with the rest of them. So, yeah, I don't know. This is, like, a weird territory where we're writing about the Halls of the Awoken, but really it seems like at this point we're writing about the mainframes themselves.
Yeah. I mean, they're inexorably connected, which I kind of like.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back here. So this is what it is.
Some tunnelers speak of the Great Partition in the mainframes.
a division between the servitors below and the thought processes above that keep keep the workers working and not trying to unite with brethren.
So we have communist tunnelers.
Oh, there definitely are communist tunnelers.
I'm here for it. That's great.
There are tunnelers that are actively trying to pull their pull other tunnelers away from the mainframes.
Okay. Tunnelers away from the mainframes. Arguing that the great reconnection. Oh wait, what is it? The Great Partition?
Yeah, so they speak of the Great Partition between the higher mind of the mainframes and the servitors below.
Okay. Below must...
Hell yeah, tunnelers have class warfare now.
Love it. Must be abolished. Sick. Okay, cool. And I think with that's kind of it for tonight. Like, yeah, we've run into some cool lore territory here. Damn. Every time we do one of these, like, we're learning more and more about this world.
That's wild. It's very cool.
Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and let's just run through some quick announcements. So, first off, hope you guys like the new layout. I did a little bit of work on it. I think it looks pretty good overall. Second off, we are going to be expanding our streaming schedule moving forward. We're going to be doing our regular weekly stream here on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. going until 9 p.m. We're also going to be introducing, what is it, a Tuesday stream, Corey?
I think so. What? We're going to be doing the Tuesday stream? I'm confused.
Yeah, so we're we're hammering it out. We're gonna be doing more background ballads because it seemed like y'all really liked that.
Yeah.
We may be looking at an additional stream, also just to like try and iron out like the rest of the mechanics in a pretty quick turnaround, so we can get to our next playtest.
Right. And Tuesday stream, I'll be getting out of my Tuesday night game, unfortunately, soon.
Sorry, Drew.
So that will mean me and Taylor will be alternating on Tuesday nights. He'll be doing background ballads. I'll be doing. I think we're still deciding on but some art streams or whatever, art and design streams.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, very excited about that. But yeah, other than that, expect a new playtest to be announced sometime in the next couple of weeks. If you're watching us build this game and you think that it's something really interesting and you want to be a part of it, let us know. We are always looking for playtesters. We'd love to have you with us. Our last playtest was like a 5-piece thing in like this general time frame. So like Wednesday nights at 6. If you're free to stream for those things, let us know. We'd love to have you with us.
Yeah.
If you want to meet us in person, we're going to be at PAX Unplugged this December. So get tickets for that and come say hi. We'd love to meet you.
Won't have a table, but we will be walking around.
We'll be walking around with shady backpacks, handing out little baggies of goods to strangers. So keep an eye out for these faces. Corey, anything else? I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Raid today.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, then we're just going to leave. Bye.
Bye.